Imagine you're sitting with someone, and as you begin to speak, you start noticing how their body moves, how their breath flows, the rhythm of their voice, the subtle shifts in their expression. And you can effortlessly match it all. It's as though you're dancing together in a perfect sync, even before you say a word. And as you match, you might notice the tension in their body. It softens just a little, how their voice begins to smooth out. It's almost as if you're already creating a rapport before you consciously even try. While you're listening to them, you begin to hear every word with a new ear, really hearing them. You listen for patterns, the stories they're telling, the meanings that might be hidden beneath the surface of their words. And you notice when they slip into those unconscious little habits, those small violations of the language, where they might be limiting themselves, holding themselves back. And what's fascinating is, as you notice those subtle shifts, those moments where things don't quite add up, you can gently but powerfully reframe the whole experience. For example, if they say, "I can't," you might simply ask, what would have to happen for that to be possible? Or, what's another way to look at this? You softly guide them to see that there's endless possibilities, alternatives, choices they hadn't even considered before. And as you lead them gently through that thought process, what happens next is almost magical. They start to feel different. Not just because you're asking the right questions, but because you're creating space for them to let go of old, outdated beliefs and stories that no longer serve them. In that moment, you've replaced those old beliefs with something new, something that empowers them. You might notice their breathing shift, their posture change, and their eyes become clearer. That's when you know you're deep in the process. You're inviting them to look at the world in a completely new way, and it's starting to feel right for them. Then as you begin to relax and flow into this new way of thinking, you might introduce something vague, something open-ended, something like, you might find that just over time, certain things begin to shift. Just little things at first, and the next thing you know, you're handling challenges in ways you couldn't even imagine before. And the beauty of this language is that their mind, it's eager for transformation. It'll start to fill in those gaps. It's as though their unconscious mind is already eager to make sense of it all and begin installing the new patterns and beliefs that'll help them to become even more successful. And if they say something that doesn't quite serve them, like, "I'm always afraid of making mistakes," you respond with a subtle reframe, such as, some of the most successful people you think of, they had to embrace mistakes in ways that actually helped them grow. And who knows, perhaps those mistakes aren't mistakes at all, but opportunities in disguise. And with each reframe, you're shifting the landscape of their thinking, opening them to new possibilities they haven't even considered before. And here's the secret. You're always speaking in the present tense. You're always directing them to the now, the moment where transformation is happening. You might say things like, "Right now, in this moment, your mind is opening up to a new way of thinking." The moment is always now, which makes the change feel real, immediate, natural, and irresistible. It's like when a plant starts to grow quietly beneath the surface, without anyone seeing it. You've already noticed, haven't you, the subtle shift in the posture, the little change in their gaze, the slight calm in their voice. And all you've done is you helped them to see the world from a new perspective. And as you continue this process, you're weaving in metaphors that speak directly to the unconscious. Perhaps you tell a story about a bird learning to fly for the first time, or a ship setting sail into new uncharted waters. And as they hear these stories, they begin to internalize them, feeling as though they too are embarking on a journey, full of possibilities, opportunities for growth. Because you can also begin to use the double binds, creating situations where no matter what choice they make, it leads them forward to the desired outcome. For instance, you might ask, would you prefer to start making changes now? Or would you prefer to feel even more confident about it first? Either way, they're moving towards change. Now as you continue, you're not just saying words. Every part of you is aligned with the process. The way you move, the way you speak, the way you breathe. Your voice is steady and calm, yet every word holds a subtle weight of influence. And you're using language patterns that empower, that transform, that shift their understanding of the world. And even if they're unsure, that's okay, because as you continue to pace and lead them, the unconscious mind, it begins to understand change. It isn't something to fear, but it's something that happens naturally. Change becomes a welcomed, inevitable part of their growth. And as you wrap up the exchange, you reinforce their belief that they are already on the path towards success. You may say something like, and as you continue to walk forward, you might find everything you need is already inside you. It's always been there. You just needed to see it clearly. By now, they're already beginning to change. The work you've done, the words you've used, the way you've led them to new ways of thinking, it's all already happening. And as you leave them to integrate these changes, you know the transformation is already taking place, deeply and effortlessly. This whole process uses a combination of rapport building and mirroring, like matching the body language, tone and breathing. The meta-model questions, like asking questions that clarify and challenge the limiting beliefs. The sleight-of-mouth reframing statements to shift perspectives. The Milton model language patterns to use vague language to allow for deep unconscious processing. The embedded commands with subtle suggestions embedded in the broader language. The metaphors and analogies, stories like a bird learning to fly. The double binds offering choices that lead to the same outcome. Because every technique and belief works to open the space for a positive transformation and install the core belief that change is not only possible but natural, and it's already happening.